All right, good afternoon, everyone. First off, I want to let you know that today at 12:45 p.m. in this room, there will be a hybrid press briefing by Bob Ray, the president of the Economic and Social Council. He will be here in person to brief on the situation in Haiti and on the joint meeting of ECOSOC and the Peacebuilding Commission. Maria Isabel Salvador, the special representative of the Secretary General for Haiti and head of the UN Integrated Office in Haiti, and Thomas Peter Zanissen, the Deputy Permanent Representative of Germany to the United Nations, will also participate in the press briefing. Ms. Salvador will connect virtually, and the Deputy Permanent Representative of Germany will be here in person. The Secretary General met with His Holiness Pope Leo XIV in Vatican City today. They discussed ongoing and future areas of collaboration between the Holy See and the United Nations in their joint efforts to build a peaceful, just, and sustainable world. His Holiness and the Secretary General exchanged views on peace and security issues, as well as other global priorities, including sustainable development, climate action, and artificial intelligence, and ways to build on the long legacy of cooperation between the United Nations and the Holy See. The Secretary General is on his way back to New York now. Turning to the situation in the Gaza Strip, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs continues to receive reports of people being killed and injured while trying to access food. We reiterate in the strongest terms possible that no one should be forced to risk their lives to receive aid, as people across Gaza are at risk of famine. Meanwhile, OCHA warns that the shortage of accessible fuel could force more health, water, and sanitation facilities to shut down. This could affect the most basic of programs. Vaccines, for one, require fuel for cold chain systems. The collapse of telecommunication systems, internet connectivity, and emergency communication systems is a real threat. This would cripple life-saving coordination and prevent affected communities from receiving critical information. Yet our attempts to access available stocks of fuel in Rafah continue to be rejected. Between the 13th of April and this past Monday, 29 out of 35 attempts were denied by the Israeli authorities. This morning's mission was also denied. Yesterday, at least 12 out of 24 attempts to coordinate humanitarian movements inside Gaza were denied by the Israeli authorities, including new attempts to truck potable water to vulnerable people who remain in northern Gaza, retrieve critical fuel and nutrition supplies from Rafah, and repair vital roads in the south. International humanitarian law is crystal clear. If the population is inadequately supplied with essentials for their survival, Israel must agree to humanitarian relief and facilitate it by all the means at its disposal. Since the limited resumption of humanitarian assistance into Gaza on the 19th of May, the World Food Programme says that it has only been able to bring in small amounts of life-saving food and aid. This is largely due to delays or denials of permission for humanitarian movements due to expanded military operations. As of the 10th of June, WFP has transported over 700 trucks of aid to the Kerem Shalom border crossing point. This compares to 600 to 700 trucks of aid transported per day during the ceasefire earlier this year. The trucks carried over 11,000 metric tons of food, but only 6,000 metric tons have entered Gaza, enough to support fewer than 300,000 people for a month with minimal daily food requirements. This is a small fraction of what is needed for a population of 2.1 million people, and far too slow to meet the overwhelming needs. The World Health Organization and other partners working on health continue to sound the alarm over shrinking access to the remaining healthcare facilities in Gaza, particularly Al-Amal and Al-Nasser hospitals in Khan Yunis. Al-Amal Hospital, while still partially functioning, is unable to accept new patients due to hostilities nearby and because of its location inside an area under displacement orders. WHO reiterates that healthcare facilities must never be militarized and must always be protected. Yesterday, the UN Special Coordinator for the Middle East Peace Process ad interim, Sigrid Kaag, together with the Deputy Special Coordinator and UN's Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator for the occupied Palestinian territory, Sarah Poole, visited Gaza City, where they met with partners to discuss the challenges they're facing, as well as the UN's ongoing engagement at all levels to advocate for a meaningful scale-up of humanitarian support and access in Gaza. Our peacekeepers in southern Lebanon report that they were confronted by a group of individuals yesterday in civilian clothing in the vicinity of Halusiyat al-Tata, while conducting a planned patrol coordinated with the Lebanese armed forces. The group attempted to obstruct the patrol using aggressive means, including throwing stones at the peacekeepers. Fortunately, no injuries were reported. In response, UNIFIL personnel employed non-lethal measures to ensure the safety of both the patrol members and those present. The Lebanese armed forces was promptly informed and arrived on the scene shortly thereafter. The situation was quickly brought under control and the patrol was able to proceed. Freedom of movement is a core requirement for the implementation of UNIFIL's mandate. This includes the ability to operate independently and impartially, as outlined in Security Council Resolution 1701. Any restriction on this freedom while conducting operational activities with or without the Lebanese armed forces constitutes a violation of that resolution. UNIFIL calls on the Lebanese authorities to ensure that its peacekeepers can carry out their mandated duties without obstruction or threat. Turning to Ukraine, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tell us that the city of Kharkiv came under attack overnight. This was the third time that Ukraine's second largest city was attacked in just 5 days. According to the local authorities, the attack killed and injured civilians, including children. Our humanitarian partners on the ground report extensive damage. Dozens of residential buildings, a school, playgrounds, and public and private transport have been damaged. The humanitarian coordinator for Ukraine, Matthias Schmale, condemned the attack. He said that it was part of an alarming rise in the frequency of attacks impacting civilians and civilian infrastructure across the country. We, along with our partners, provided first aid, shelter materials, and other essentials, as well as psychosocial support. Amid intensifying hostilities, authorities have announced the mandatory evacuations of civilians, particularly families with children, from 7 more villages in the Kharkiv region. Humanitarians continue to support people fleeing the hostilities and other people in need in the region. Between January and April of this year, nearly 200 humanitarian organizations reached more than 530,000 people in the Kharkiv region with at least one type of humanitarian assistance. This includes aid for some 94,000 internally displaced people. Aid efforts have focused on restoring water and sanitation systems, distributing food and agricultural inputs, delivering essential medicines and healthcare, and providing psychological support, multi-purpose cash assistance, and other critical humanitarian aid. Turning to Haiti, our colleagues at the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs are concerned by the alarming rise in internal displacement in the country. The latest data from the International Organization for Migration shows that nearly 1.3 million people are now displaced across the country. This represents a 24% increase since December 2024. It also marks the highest figure ever recorded due to violence in Haiti. While Port-au-Prince remains the epicenter of violence among armed groups, the expansion of this into other regions, particularly in the Center and Artibonite departments, has triggered large-scale displacement. In the Center department, the number of displaced people has more than doubled in a few months, more than doubling from 68,000 in December 2024 to over 145,000 in June this year. In Artibonite, more than 90,000 people have fled their homes since December, and the Department of the North has seen an increase of nearly 80% of people displaced. Displaced families are often forced to settle in informal sites or overcrowded host households with limited access to basic services. Since December, the number of spontaneous displacement sites has risen sharply, from 142 to 246, with the most significant increase observed in the Center Department, which previously had none. Today, it hosts 85 active sites. Meanwhile, 83% of displaced persons are hosted by families, creating additional pressure on already fragile rural communities. IOM has scaled up its operations in the metropolitan zone of Port-au-Prince, reaching over 20,000 people with essential household items, delivering 3 million liters of clean water, and providing basic health care to 6,000 people. Mental health and psychosocial support have also been extended to more than 8,500 people. OCHA says that this sharp deterioration in the displacement situation comes at a time when humanitarian access is increasingly restricted and funding remains critically low. Without urgent support to meet growing needs and address the structural drivers of displacement, the crisis will deepen further, placing even more pressure on already overstretched systems and communities. We had been asked about the shooting in Austria, and I can tell you that the Secretary General is deeply shocked and saddened by the school shooting that took place yesterday in Graz. He strongly condemns this senseless act of violence and extends his heartfelt condolences to the families of the victims, the people of Graz, and the government of Austria. He wishes a swift and full recovery to all those who were injured. We just want to flag that tomorrow, the 12th of June, is the deadline to apply for media accreditation to cover the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development that will take place in Sevilla, Spain, from the 30th of June to the 3rd of July. Check the MALU website for details and how to apply. A new report released today by the International Labour Organization and the UN Children's Fund shows that nearly 138 million children were engaged in child labor in 2024. This includes around 54 million in hazardous work likely to jeopardize their health, safety, or development. The latest data shows a total reduction of over 20 million children since 2020, reversing an alarming spike between 2016 and 2020. Despite this positive trend, UNICEF and ILO note that the world has missed its target of eliminating child labor by 2025. The report underscores a stark reality that while gains have been made, millions of children are still being denied their right to learn, play, and simply be children. According to the data, agriculture remains the largest sector for child labor, accounting for 61% of all cases, followed by services like domestic work and selling goods in markets and industry, including mining and manufacturing. The full report is available online. And it's ironic that I was just talking about children's right to play because today is the International Day of Play. The theme for this year is Choose Play Every Day. It's a reminder for governments, businesses, schools, and families to take decisions that embrace and prioritize play for children. That's it for me. Are there any questions? Yes, Amelie.
Thanks, Farhan. Just a quick follow-up on the Gaza trucks. You said as of the 10th of June, 700 WFP trucks have gotten in. You meant since the 19th of May, when the border crossing was reopened? Yeah?
Yeah,
yes.
Since the border crossings were reopened on the 19th of May.
Okay,
yes.
and are there any other agencies getting trucks in, or is it only WFP? That means that is it only 700 since 19th of May, total UN, or are there more?
No, there have been other trucks that include medical supplies from the World Health Organization, that include other child nutrition supplies that come via UNICEF. So this is just the World Food Program portion of that. However, that's a significant amount of goods, including basically a lot of flour, that has been able to get in. Deshi and then Gabriel.
Yeah, same question here. Today, Reuters reported that U.S. warns against attending UN conference on Israel-Palestinian two-state solution and said those member states who participate could face, quote, diplomatic consequences from the United States. What's the response from the UN on this decision from Trump administration?
I believe that all the member states of the system will make their own decisions accordingly to what their own interests are. But we expect that there will be widespread attendance at this meeting. And the Secretary General, in his stakeout appearance last week, explained exactly the importance of keeping the two-state solution alive.
With the lack of support from United States, how much of the possibility is still there for a two-state solution?
I think the Secretary General has been very clear and very straightforward about what the challenges are that the two-state solution faces. And he's also been clear, as he told you last Friday, what are the alternatives to it. We need to have a solution where the people of Israel and the people of Palestine can live side by side in peace and security. This is the one solution that the international community has embraced and has been able to try to push forward over the years. Obviously, there are challenges facing it, and they're extremely clear at this moment. But this is the way forward that we have, and we have to embrace it.
For the last question on this round, since you talk about that, I believe many of us have no doubt about the two-state solution is the only solution. But has Secretary General have any chance to talk to U.S. administration to express this to the administration there? It's useless to tell us this thing, you know.
We've made our views clear to the U.S. and our other interlocutors over the years, and we continue to do that. Gabriel, and then we'll go online.
Thanks, Farhan. Following up on the trucks, the 700 number between May 19th and June 10th averages out to under 30 a day. Has there given any thought to the UN telling Israel we will only participate in their using starvation as a weapon of war if they allow a certain number of trucks, so you don't play into their basically they're allowing you guys to say they're basically being able to say we're allowing trucks in, but it's so little, it's negligible.
We are not in a position where we have the opportunity to give starving people food to then say we're not going to do that unless our own demands are met. That's simply not something the United Nations does. If we have any opportunity to feed people who are in need, we will take that up. We have made clear the need for more crossing points to be open and for more aid to come in. You've heard me say this. Sigrid Kaag, as I just mentioned, has been trying to deal with the authorities on the ground to get more aid in, and we'll continue to work in good faith. And we want all of the people whom we're talking to also work in good faith on this.
So even if it's under 30 trucks a day, you will continue to agree to that because you guys feel there's no other option?
What would the alternative be?
The alternative would be tell Israel, we need a certain amount of trucks to get in if you want us to participate in your plan.
We will not keep food from people if we can get it to them. They need it to live, and denying food from people ensures the chance that many of them will die. So that is not a gamble we're going to take. First, we'll go to Abdul Hamid on the screen, and then to you. Abdul Hamid first.
Thank you, Farhan. Today, 73 Palestinians were killed, including 44 near the food distribution center. I haven't seen this number come in your briefing, so killing 73 is no news for the UN. Is that so?
If you were paying attention while I was reading, I talked about the reports of people being killed and injured while trying to access food. And I said once again that no one should be forced to risk their lives to receive aid. We've been giving numbers as we get them, and on days like today, we continue to deplore that people are forced to put their lives at risk simply to feed their families. Yes, please, Mr. Hosseini.
Thank you. As I hope you're aware, a group of Veterans for Peace and Allies are fasting. They're holding a daily vigil in front of the U.S. mission to the UN just across the street from this headquarters here. They're consuming only 250 calories a day, what people in Gaza on average are getting. And they're just halfway through their 40-day fast. They're sacrificing all they can to make people see what's happening. Will the Secretary General meet with them?
The Secretary General, as you know, has been traveling. We'll have to see what his schedule is like when he's here, but I will also have some further announcements of travel to make from him in the coming days. He's traveling this evening. We do expect him to be back in town tomorrow. Yes.
Turning subjects, on the Oceans Conference in Nice, they're collecting ratifications on the High Seas Treaty, the BBNJ. Those have to be deposited here at headquarters, correct?
Yes, I believe the Secretary General is the depository for those ratifications.
Right. Okay, and will there be anything if they do get to 60, at which point the treaty goes into effect?
Certainly, we would announce once we have the necessary ratifications. As the Secretary General pointed out earlier this week, we're getting very close, given the surge in ratifications that happened on Monday.
Great. And just a quick question on the SG. He will speak tomorrow afternoon at the emergency special session?
I do not have his program for tomorrow. At this stage, I'm not aware that he's going to speak.
Okay.
The president of the General Assembly is going to speak.
Right. And then he speaks on the 18th for the two-state.
Yes, the agenda for that meeting is still being developed. But yes, we expect that will happen.
Thank you.
Yes, Deji.
Yes, Farhan, go back to the GHF delivery operation. I mean, for the past 2 years, we saw very absurd scenes in Gaza. You know, last year, the floating dock, it cost money and time. And this time, the GHF found operation, it cost lives. Do you think if the UN decided to participate in the Gaza Humanitarian Fund, it would make a difference than what we're seeing these days?
The reason we're not participating in this effort is because it does not meet the minimum standards that we hold for humanitarian aid delivery. If we cannot deliver aid under our standards for neutrality, for impartiality, for independence, and for need-based aid, we will not be able to do this.
Do you think this could be one of the reasons that there are so many incidents happened around that delivery points?
We have already warned, and we did this before this operation started, of the risks involved in having a small number of aid areas that would entail people going through conflict zones in order to get to aid. And you've seen what the results have been. Yes.
Thank you. I mean, people have criticized the Secretary General's office for not doing enough regarding Gaza. And in the course of this news conference, I don't believe you said the word condemn, even as you're talking about Gaza, when another reporter asked, put a threshold, and you said, we will not starve people. We will not hinder aid, even if it's a very limited amount. But of course, it's Israel that's starving people. But you're not condemning them.
We have made clear Israel's responsibilities, and we made clear that it is because of Israel's blocking of aid that we have not been able to feed people. Regarding the killings of civilians, we've repeatedly condemned this. If you see our briefings overall, I use the word condemn often enough that I worried that, in fact, it's probably being overused rather than underused. But the fact is, we do condemn all killings of civilians, and we, again, are critical of all measures that are placing people at risk, either of having to face tremendous risk to their lives to get aid, or to do without and risk starving.
But there's a systematic pattern with regards to what Israel is doing. It is moving people to the south, offering them aid there, shooting them, with an eye towards apparently expulsion. You say, what are the alternatives to a two-state solution? The alternatives are obviously on the Israeli side, expulsion of Palestinians, or a South Africa solution, where you just have one person, one vote, regardless of religion, and so on. So there are alternatives feasible, some horribly illegal and some arguably utopian, but still there.
We've made clear our opposition to any forcible transfer of the population of Gaza, and we've also made clear our concerns about any system that would enshrine unequal or discriminatory practices. So there's no solution besides the two-state solution that would be able to guarantee the long-term rights of all the population. And that is the solution that we are pushing for, even at this difficult moment.
I don't believe the Secretary General has used the word genocide with respect to Israel. Is that accurate?
I think, again, for the people who are veterans here, we've taken this up many times, but the question of genocide is one to be determined by international courts. And so we will leave that determination to international judicial bodies to make. Rather than focusing on the words being used, what we're describing is what is happening. And what is happening is very clearly and unambiguously wrong. denial of food to 2 million people is wrong.
Targeting those judicial bodies. Is the UN taking measures to, in practical, strong terms, protect them from malicious influence?
What I can tell you on that is that the Secretary General expresses serious concern about the designation of 4 judges of the International Criminal Court to be sanctioned under the executive order by the United States. While the United Nations and the International Criminal Court are separate institutions with separate and distinct mandates, the United Nations considers the ICC a key pillar of international criminal justice, and the Secretary General respects its work. And the Secretary General also emphasizes the importance of the basic principle of judicial independence. All right. Have a good afternoon, everyone.